This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with not the one, the only, Brandon Swanson. I feel like he's been replaced and that Dave Oster has now taken over his spot. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited. Bringing some basketball news people's way.
Dave's like, I'm really excited to bring basketball news people's way because apparently the Nasir Little fan base out there, we extremely upset them.
I'll just say, did you watch?
By even asking the question of will he be a bust?
Yeah, no, I respect everyone's opinions, but we did address almost all of that if you actually watched.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you out, fans.
Dave, I had to bring it up because I know Dave was a wee bit upset.
I got a little upset.
With the comment section.
We made that point, exactly.
Dave's looking at it. We made that one. But we thank you guys for listening and
I do enjoy
commenting.
the comments. It's just,
I bring Dave back also because I'm like, you know what? Brandon's out of town. He's on a sabbatical. And I need somebody who can bring me the basketball knowledge, just a plethora of basketball knowledge in his head. And I was like...
Too much free time.
First, I called Mark Weber, and I was like, Mark couldn't do it. No, I'm kidding. Dave is the first one I call.
Yeah.
Dave's the one I bring in. And this is a special time because it's a second first for you on the podcast.
A second first?
Well, last week was your first appearance on the podcast.
Confirmed, yep.
This is your first ever big board.
That's true.
Your first NBA big board out of the mind of Dave Oster. We're going to be doing our NBA big board today. If you're new to how we do it, we go 25 through 1, not 1 through 25, 25 through 1, splitting them up into 3 segments each. Before we get into it, got to pitch the Patreon page, got to pump and say thank you to our patrons. You can become one down below in the description. We cannot do what we do without our patrons each and every day. And then before we get into it, Dave, I think I'm sending a message with this shirt because this is officially the first podcast, the first video that MVP Nation is going to hear in 2019.
Oh, nice.
Am I saying that we're just going to burn it down in 2019?
We could.
Is that what we're doing?
Just be doing
screw
it.
We're burning it down.
Yep.
We're burning it down. But 2019, thank you guys for another great 2018. Hoping 2019 is just as great with you guys. So, Dave, how we do it is we're going to start 16 through 25, much like a big board. You're used to that, so I'll let you take it first. Sure. Take us through 25 through 16 for your big board.
Sure. At number 25, I have one of the guys I really liked at the end of last year. He's not young, but Cassius Winston out of Michigan State. 24, I've got Naz Reid out of LSU. 23, I've got Trey Jones out of Duke. 22, I got KZ Okpala out of Stanford. 21, I've got Daniel Gafford out of Arkansas. At 20, I've got Brandon Clark out of Gonzaga. 19, I've got Jonte Porter out of Mizzou. Still hurt. Going to be hurt all year, but he's still worth putting on a board. 18, I have Jackson Hayes out of Texas. 17, I've got Charles Bassey. And 16 is a surprise to some, Lugan Stort out of ASU fallen.
Well, and I'll just say Dort, a little bit higher on mine after he was not on mine at all in the 1.0 for my 16 through 25. Going to start off at number 25, Killian Tilly, the big man out of Gonzaga. Then at number 24, a really big faller. Would have been top 5 if we did it preseason. Now has fallen all the way to 24. Quentin Grimes, the guard from the Kansas Jayhawks. Then a last name, I'm going to be completely honest, Dave. Usually I do the professional thing, and I look up last names. I'm just going to butcher this one. I've got Ignas Bradikis, I think it is, forward
Not even close.
From Michigan. Like I said, going to butcher it. Correct me in the comment section. 22, Dietrich Lawson, forward from Kansas. Then at 22, Charles Bassey, the center from Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers. Then at 20, Trey Jones locking it down, the guard from Duke. Then Nikhil Alexander-Walker, cousin of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if I'm not mistaken, guard from VT. Brandon Clark, forward from Gonzaga at 18. And then 17, Daniel Gafford, center from Arkansas. And at 16, he may be injured, but he's still here, Darius Garland, the guard from Vanderbilt. And the first one there's a couple guys we're going to mention in this one.
Yeah.
The first one I do want to talk about is KZ Okpala, a guy that you have on your big board. I don't have on my big board. And the reason why I want to bring him up is Brandon didn't have him on his the last one. I didn't have him on that one. Don't have him on this one. For you, what makes Okpala a top 25 draft prospect at this point in the draft year?
He is an incredible offensive weapon in my mind. He is someone who's shooting 47 from the field, 48 from three, 76 from the line. He is hitting it from all three levels at college, and honestly, it's one of those things where my only weakness to his game, obviously defensively he can step it up a little bit more, but offensively he doesn't look to facilitate often. Like he has the ability to, but he's not a point forward. But he's able to get you boards. He's able to get you points. He can take games over, and that's exactly what I want to see out of him. Obviously, he's playing at Stanford, so it's not exactly got the national spotlight on him, but he's a very talented offensive player, and I think that, with his size, his length, that it's definitely worthy of him being a top 25 pick.
Well, and it's funny.
Or top 25 on my big board, I should say.
It's funny that you look at the assist numbers because you look at his last 3 games have had a total of 3 assists per those games. So he is averaging exactly 1. And there's only 3 games where he's had 4 or more. He had 4 more. He had 4
literally
against
the 2
Kansas,
previous to that.
4 against Eastern Washington. Then he had 5 to start the season. Against the Seattle University on their game on November 6th. He's a guy to me to where, what am I, like, I wonder if because you mentioned he's at Stanford. He doesn't have the national spotlight on him. I wonder if he's going to be one of those players where, I don't want to say it hurts him, but I'm going to say kind of like and I'm not comparing his play style to this, I'm comparing like the national spotlight to it, like a James Harden. Okay. James Harden in college, Arizona State, maybe because they're both Pac-12, but it's like the eyes aren't on Stanford like it has been in the past. So because of that, not many people are going to, plus it was with him, miss some time or miss some games because of a suspension. People might have just said, you know what, we're going to take him off our radar right now, which the thing that I think is weird about that is you don't want to do that because against that Kansas game, he had 22 against Kansas. He has had 16 against North Carolina. That's the thing I'm going to look for when it comes to Okpala. What are you going to do against those bigger competition? Because right now at Stanford, I'll be honest, they have not had the best of, like, the toughest schedule. Yeah, they had Wisconsin in there. Yeah, they had Florida in there. But Okpala didn't play in those games, so I can't see what he did against a ranked Wisconsin team, what he did against a Florida team. But coming up now, calendar turns, conference play comes, you're going to be going up against USC that has some draft picks on it. You're going to be going up against Arizona State twice, and we're going to see the Okpala-Dort kind of matchup. You're going to go against an Oregon team that's going to hopefully have Lewis King and Ball both on the court, which are going to be draft guys. So to me, that is what I'm looking for from Okpala. What are you going to do against those other draft prospects that he's going to see in the Pac-12?
I think he's just going to keep doing the same thing. Honestly, he's just got really good shooting, and that's most valuable. When you have a 6'8" prospect like him who can play the 3, can play a little bit of the 4 as well, like, I look for him probably just to be a guy who ends up being a scoring machine. Like, he's going to be able to probably, I think on the year he's putting up, 17 points. I think he's going to stay right in that 17 to 20 range. The biggest key for him is his efficiency. Like, if he continues to shoot, his three-point shooting improved dramatically. Year 1, he was shooting 22% on just 1.3 attempts. Year 2, just shy of 3 attempts a game at 48%. I look to see him continue as long as he keeps that line above about 42% in college.
Well, I mean,
he looks to translate really well to the NBA.
In the NBA, that is key. Like, that 3-point percentage is
that's
more
in my mind, that's how you get drafted. Like,
you get that high 3-point percentage.
If he can take 3 threes a game, shooting over 45% a game, absolutely has value. He's got good size, good speed. He can rebound decently well for his size. Like I said, the assists, it's not that he can't, it's that he's not always set up to do that. So given the system, I think that he can be a passable facilitator. It's like passable passer.
Passable passer. What I do want to move into, though, is guys who are probably not going to shoot the three well. And we both have, if I'm not mistaken, in this range, we both have the two big guys that I'm thinking about here. We do. So I have Daniel Gafford at 17, and I have Charles Bassey at 21.
Yep.
You've got Bassey at 17. You've got Gafford at 21. It's funny how we both did that. In your mind, what goes through your head if we straight through compared 1v1 Charles Bassey to Daniel Gafford?
So I like them both, and I don't know that there's enough to distinguish the two of them that much at this point in time.
It's like splitting hairs.
Gafford's got another year of college basketball under him. Technically, Bassey was higher ranked out of high school than Gafford was. He reclassified as well. So I just look at him and I go, I see probably a little bit better upside out of him being a traditional big than I do out of Gafford. Gafford has good size, good athleticism. But I just, the thing for me is how well is he going to be able to play, with a true four next to him at all times, spacing wise. And I think that Bassey for me is the easier plug and play guy. And in college right now, what I'm seeing is that they're both very, very close. Like I was flipping through just for curiosity, like, oh, let's go player comps from like Tankathon, because those are always fun because they do the per 36 for everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's near misses on each side. And it's ridiculous how close they are for every single percentage. So honestly, I think this comes down to personal preference. What do you see each guy doing well and doing bad in college? But in my mind, they're both very close. I just think that Gafford might be the more offensively gifted talent, but I think Bassey's going to end up being the better all-around player.
Well, and for me, the thing that I look to, and maybe this isn't the best thing to look at, and maybe some people might see flaws in this, but with Bassey, it's going to come down to, I'll call it the John Morant rule, because we kind of did the same thing with John Morant, where you're at a small school.
Yeah.
What do you do against the big guys? John Morant against Auburn, we have no questions about him. We talked about him last week.
Yep.
Had no questions about what he could do against higher talent. I look at Bassey, and the thing that's the asterisk here that people might bring up is, but Ricky, he's a 5, not a 1. It's easier for a player like John Morant to do better because the ball's always in his hands. A better school, higher talent can take a 5 out of the game, take a guy who doesn't have the ball in his hands out of the game. But I look at it. Power 5 opponents. Washington to start the season had about 11 and 12. Good rebounds, would like a little bit more points. You've got West Virginia, only 13 points in that game. The Arkansas game, many people brought that up when the last time we brought up Bassey and Gafford, because this is the first time we had them 1v1. Bassey won by a point and had 21 in that game. But then, like the last game he played on the 29th against Wisconsin, 19 points, 6 rebounds, where it kind of feeds into what you're saying. This might just be the well-roundedness of him. Hey, I'm still going to get 12 rebounds, but only have 11 points in this game. I don't have to be the scorer.
Right.
Whereas I see Gafford, Texas, he had 20 points. Indiana, he had 27 points. Western Kentucky had 17, which was one of his lowest. His lowest is 13 against University of Texas San Antonio, which you're looking at that saying, how do you only have 13 against them? And those were the only big ones he's had. Now, Gafford's going to be going up against stronger opponents moving forward.
Yep.
And that's the thing where I wonder if Gafford is going to be able to overtake Bassey, where it's like, yes, you might see more well-roundedness from Bassey, but he ain't going to be going up against high-level opponents the rest of the way like a guy like Daniel Gafford is.
Right, but at some point, stats can't tell you the whole story. And I think that's where, I think Gafford is able to crush stat lines left and right. But I think that Bassey is, I don't want to say, not going to be given the same opportunities in college, in his school, and his system that Gafford has. That's why I like how close they are in my mind. They're basically, you can't really go wrong with either one of them. And I'll even just toss in Jackson Hayes, another Texas center who I love Texas and their centers. They've just been killing it as of late. But he's a guy who I really like because size-wise, he's fantastic. He's dominant in the paint. He knows what to do. Same wingspan. He's 7'3" wingspan, just like Bassey is. But when it comes down to it, he is just straight up mean defensively. Offensively, he's solid too. Like he's got, all three of them are good, and I don't think that any one of them has rightfully like separated themselves.
So you're saying it's more of a
lottery
personal
pick.
preference thing.
I think right now it's personal preference. Yeah, very close all around though.
Because even like defensively, like if you look at, I know you were saying if you go to the compare prospects on Tankathon, you look at the per, 34, 36, I'm going to get that wrong, per 36. Technically, you've got Gafford with a better defensive rating. But then you look stat by stat, either side, it's like, yeah, well, Gafford has some games with 4 or 5 blocks. Yeah, but so does Bassey, too. Like, Bassey against Gafford.
Gafford might have an entire team that plays defense, which matters when it comes to defensive rating.
And with these prospects, too, it's with the 5, how much of that is the player around them? But 4-5, one big guy that you want to look at.
Yeah.
Naz Reid. And the word you used before we started recording was lazy.
I did. I say the word lazy because that's what it looks like sometimes. He is so gifted offensively, and you just don't see that same level of effort on the defensive end. He just kind of looks lost out there. But, his most recent performance, I know against the highly touted Louisiana Monroe, like, he was in the game for 23 minutes. He had 19 points and 12 boards.
Dave spit and say
4 blocks.
Straight sarcasm.
Like, and don't let the blocks number make you think that, like, he's just throwing down defensively, because he's not. It's very much like what's close to him. Like, he's not a terrible on-ball defender, but he's an awful help defender. He's an awful off-ball defender. So I think he's one of those guys who it's like, I could see him translating to the NBA pretty easily as a, like, 6-man, come in the game, give you that, like, we're Chicago fans, so I'll just be like, the offensive, like, burst, like a Bobby Portis style, like what he was doing for us last year. Comes in the game, gives us almost 20 points a night off the bench, and just pushes that team and abuses guys who can't defensively stand up close to him because his offense is so well polished. The thing I love about him is the fact that he might not have that 3-point shot down yet, but he's taken a shot at it. He's putting up the attempts. He's put up 35 3-pointers this year, hitting him about 31%, which is respectable. I'll drop out there as respectable. But it's the limited minutes and high productivity scoring-wise that really intrigues me out of him, because I think that given his skill set, I can see that instantly translate to a 6-man, like 7th man on the bench role, where he can come in and give you that instant offense.
Well, and for me, just by looking at, if you just went through the points, like through his games, I would look at it and go, there's something here that I need to look into, because like he starts the year off against weaker opponents, 17, 29, then a Memphis, 11, you still got double digits. But then against, I know Louisiana Tech, he only played 10 minutes, but he plays 22 against Charlton, 4 and 6, before then popping off for 12 against Florida State, then back down to 6 and 8, then 16, 13, 14, and then, wait a minute, you only got 9 against Furman?
But he had 9 in 19 minutes.
I get that, yeah, and it's like for me, I wonder where it's like, yeah, I get, maybe it's
look at his usage.
Furman.
Look at his usage.
Maybe I'm looking because it's Furman. And
if the ball's not in his hands, he can't score. But when the ball hits his hands, he's excellent at scoring.
And I mean, you bring up the 3 as well.
Yeah.
The devil's advocate to that I'm going to play is take the 4 for 6 that he had against Greensboro out. That percentage probably dips.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing a lot of 0 of 2s, 0 of 3s, 1 of 2s, 2 of 5s.
Don't care. He's trying.
Yeah.
I'm giving guys credit for trying in college.
So lazy, but he's trying. That's what we're getting. Like
lazy on
effort.
defense.
Okay.
Lazy on defense.
But the offense is there.
But the offensive game is there, and it will continue to get more polished as the season goes. He moves the needle on the offensive end. Like, you're giving him garbage about putting up 9 points in 19 minutes. 19 minutes isn't a whole game. Per 36's numbers. Go ahead and per 36's numbers. I'll wait. I'll wait.
Well, I'd have to go and find them.
Oh, okay. Because
I looked on Tankathon, and Tankathon doesn't let you look them up. Let's see. Per 36.
You could do, like,
I just typed in Naz Reid per 36, see if they'll pop up.
You do per 100 possessions if you want to do that one, or per 40 minutes. I don't care either way. Like, the point is, offensively, he's solid. Defensively, he needs to put in some more work. But he's got good size, and he's got good athleticism. So I think that we've got a whole lot of games to go this year. He's got a lot of room to prove himself.
Well, and the last thing I'll ask you with that is the defensive thing. Is it like, if you're a coach, are you sitting there going, I could get this guy to try on defense? Or are you looking at it going, you know what, I might pass on this guy because, yes, offensively he's there, but I can't get you to want to play defense. I can't get you to want to do it if you don't want to do it.
I mean, we've seen effort issues from top picks in the past, top bigs in the past between Ja, DeAndre Ayton, and, you know, we're getting mixed results. DeAndre Ayton's looking like he's showing a little more defensive effort. Ja obviously bounced around after his troubles, but never really has landed solidly on the defensive end.
I like how you use those two because both of those are top picks.
Top picks, yeah. And I know Naz is not a top pick.
Naz won't be a top pick.
But the point is that, like, when you talk about a big man with a polished offensive game, like, both of those guys, my minds were like, if we're talking the best available, those were the best available guys.
And DeAndre Ayton in college, we talked about
both
not
of them
caring.
Both of them went really high regardless of that effort on defense. So what does that tell you? Jabari Parker.
That he's going to go a little bit higher.
Jabari Parker. Don't get paid to play defense.
True. It is an offensive league out there. Last guy,
I think he's going to get picked.
Last guy I'm going to ask you about is Luguentz Dort. And this is a guy that in our last mock draft for the fast break, you had him on there. I know I did not. I can't remember if Sean did.
So disrespectful. Sean did.
I thought you were the only one, but Sean did too. I know this is his first appearance on our big boards. What do you see in Dort and how you might be falling off the Dort train a little bit compared to when we spoke to you at that first mock draft?
Sean had him at 14. I had him at 9.
Okay.
During our first mock draft.
You don't have him at 9 on this big board.
I don't.
Why?
I don't. Well, he's hit some recent struggles. And, like, it was honestly awesome to fall in love with a guy like Dort because he plays the game like a fucking wrecking ball sometimes.
Dave's like, I do it all the time. I fall in love with someone, then I back off of them.
But if you look at his last 5 performances, it's been really disappointing. I'm sorry, let me hit from the field first. 2 of 10 from the field, 3 of 13 from the field, 3 of 14 from the field, 1 of 8 from the field. Against Georgia, Vanderbilt, Kansas, and Princeton, respectively. So what I'm seeing in those games is he's going to keep pulling the trigger, even if he's not feeling the shot. And I have to start wondering, like, is there something going on with him? Because his shooting percentages dipped massively in his last 4 games from his first 8 games. Like, the difference is night and day, and I'm just like, is he 100% healthy? Is he all there? Because you went from being a top 10 prospect in my mind to like, okay, you got a little more project written on you than I thought because you were hitting at a really great rate and your numbers were fantastic. Everything you're doing on the court was great. The problem that I'm seeing right now is it looks like he's forcing a lot of his shots as opposed to just taking what came to him naturally in the past. So I don't know. It's quality of opponent really has, you know, they have gotten better. It's no Long Beach State, you know, McNeese State. Like, I get it. Those aren't exactly top tier, you know, universities, but it's still one of those things where I'm like, all right, your offensive game, you need to take this time. You got that nice little break right around Christmas. Take the time, conference play, and let's see what you got.
Well, and I mean, that's exactly what, like, the reason why I'm not knocking them too much is the level of opponent did go up. Like, you've got a Georgia team that is not the same Georgia team it used to be. Like, this is basically a Tom Crean Georgia team where Crean knows what he's doing. Then you've got a Vanderbilt team that,
Andy solid.
Yes, they don't have Garland anymore, but they still have Chateau out there. They're still a well-coached team. And then you got Kansas. I mean, not everyone can go ahead and knock off one of the top teams because Kansas is always bouncing around.
And they did.
Number 1.
I mean, they've won 2 out of their 4, but his numbers have not looked great. At least he's able to still facilitate. Plus,
I was gonna say Princeton's a tricky one because they run that Princeton offense.
I was gonna say,
like,
I know they're unique.
Think about it this way: when it comes to Princeton, they were, and I'm gonna pull up the exact score against Duke. That's the measuring stick I'm using. Is the Duke Blue Devils? This Princeton team was only down 13 to Duke at half, and then got blown out 62-42. Or 62 to 24 in the second half. So it was a 39-26 game, Princeton v. Duke, with Duke only winning by 13. And it was after Duke made adjustments at halftime that they were able to blow the doors off and beat Princeton. This Princeton team is not like, they're not a top team, but they give you troubles. And if you're a guy like Dort, who is not in the same class as R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, and Zion Williamson, then they might be able to give you troubles as well, especially if, like you said, he went 1 of 8 in that game with 30 minutes. So to me, that is, maybe it was, hey, I got to exert so much energy on this defensive side guarding this Princeton offense that the offense just ain't there, and he only took 8 shots from the field.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens, because what is his non-conference schedule coming up? He's got Utah and Colorado to start, which should be good ones, and then Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, Oregon.
I'm just saying, when you start the season, your first 8 games, and you're dropping, shooting splits of like 50, 34, and then now you're down to, in your last 4 games, 20, 14. Something's not jiving there.
And maybe it is something that just is going wrong that we do not know about. Any guys that we didn't mention in this that you want to give some love to before we move on?
No, I feel pretty good about that one. Cassius Winston. I love that dude.
I knew you were going to say his name again.
I tossed him in at 25. He might not be 25, but he's 25 in my heart.
Dave's like, that's the great thing I love about that 25 spot.
It's a wild card.
Many times it's like, is this guy 25? No, he might be 28, but I'm going to put him at 25 because I want to say his name. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below about any of the guys we talked about. What would be your 16 through 25? Let us know what you think down below in that description, or in that comment section, not the description, in the comment section.